Full story as it happened because it's actually quite an intriguing and interesting one. I arrived in Ahmedabad on the morning of the interview, and around about 11 o'clock as I was getting out of the plane, we haven't even left the airport perimeter when my mobile rang and it was Narendra Modi to say, "आ गए हो?" मैंने कहा हाँ जी मैं पहुंच गया हूँ। He said, तो इंटरव्यू तो हमारा 4:30 बजे है, लेकिन थोड़े जल्दी आना, बैठ के चाय पियेंगे, गपशप करेंगे। So I arrived early and we chatted inconsequentially for about 20 minutes about the weather and about each other. Nothing about the interview, so he had no idea what was going to come up. Now, the question that was uppermost in my mind as I was preparing for this interview was that it would be impossible to interview the Chief Minister of Gujarat without bringing up Godhra, without bringing up the carnage that had happened in Gujarat in 2002. But my doubt was, at what point of the interview do I bring this up? Do I bring it up at the beginning and run the risk of souring the interview, making him defensive and perhaps losing his keenness to carry on? Do I leave it to the end, where perhaps if it does come up and it does affect the interview, it's too late? And I said to myself, it's probably best to do it at the beginning, because if I leave it for the middle or the end, it will hang like a sort of Damocles over the interview, with the Chief Minister constantly asking himself, when is this question going to come up? But if I do it at the beginning, get it out of the way, clear the atmosphere, and then we can go on to talk about the many other things that the Chief Minister of Gujarat should be questioned about, which are clearly as important to bring up. Now the second thing was, how do I phrase my first question? And I decided that I would do it bluntly, because that was the most honest way of putting the point across. And the question was, the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation and India Today magazine consider you the best Chief Minister in the country. But 140 million Muslims look upon you as a mass murderer. Do you have an image problem? And I stalled over that phrase, mass murderer, because I wasn't sure whether it was just provocative or whether it actually served a deeper, better purpose. And I said to myself, the truth is that 140 million Muslims probably do look upon him as a mass murderer, and if given the chance, they would phrase themselves in that way. If I am asking a question in a sense on their behalf and putting their opinion to him, it doesn't serve my purpose to use euphemistic language and soften the tone. It's best to be honest and to use the phraseology they would use themselves. And so I decided I would go ahead with that phrase, and I put that into the question. Well, clearly it was one that he didn't like. He began by saying that it was only a few people like me who thought in this way, and I said, no, that isn't completely true. The Chief Justice of India in open court has called you a modern-day Nehru who deliberately chooses to look the other way as helpless children and innocent women are burnt to death. And he said that if this was part of a written judgment, he would respond to it, but it was a verbal comment. At the time, because the newspapers had so reported it, I actually thought it was just a verbal comment, what they call obiter dicta. I then discovered from Teesta Setalvad, unfortunately 6 weeks later, that this was actually part of a judgment passed by the Supreme Court on the 14th of April 2004.